Welcome back to Sports for Real. I'm your host, Coach Hall. Glad to be back, just like college football. Capped off last night, with Florida Gators comeback victory over number 7 ranked Utah. Big win for the Gators who've been down a while. And, they get a lot of coverage, but I want to talk about my alma mater. For the last 15 or so years, it's been up and down, been through a lot of, different controversies, coach firings, academic scandals, you name it. It's taken place up in Tallahassee the last 15 or so years. But recently, the football team has gotten back into national prominence. They had a great year last year. They lost a heartbreaker to Jackson State the first game and ended up making the playoffs. But every time they seem to get back into prominence, something happens. Right now, you have another academic scandal. You had about 26 players ruled academically ineligible to play, and they couldn't play in that first game against North Carolina last week. But since then, most of those players have been reinstated. The problem is, while all this was taking place, a lot of the players spoke out against the university saying that they think they should be eligible. Well, I don't know about who should or should not be eligible, but I'll tell you this. Back in '94, I was a walk-on the football team, and I got a good look at how things take place. One thing's for sure, the athletic department and the coaching staff is responsible for who is eligible or getting that paperwork in to make sure everybody is eligible. So it's a clear mishandling of the information by the athletic department, but that doesn't answer for why the players are in such a situation that they are. The other part of that, the players. Well, what I saw when I was there, those players get preferential treatment from a lot of the instructors. So if they don't come to class, they may not do their work. So they tend to get away with a lot of stuff because they're on the football team. So now, if you know you're a player that's on the borderline, you know that you need to get your work done. Now, what I did see while I was on the team, I didn't need it, but a lot of players took tutoring. A lot of players, they worked in small groups, study sessions to try to get eligible and stay eligible. And the athletic department made sure that these events took place. So they set it all up. It was up to the players to do what they need to do. So now that the team is winning again, you can't tell me that the same situation is taking place now where they're getting preferential treatment from some of these assignments they're supposed to be turning in. So now that the university has ruled out of them ineligible, that's not necessarily the university's fault. It falls on the player. But each one of those players are pointing blame at the university. Now let's flip it back around. NCAA has gotten involved in that and they've reinstated a lot of players, which doesn't make the university look too good. So what does that mean? Based on what I saw when I played, I think somebody's head should roll up. And I'm not one for calling for somebody's job, but when something like this takes place and it brings a national spotlight on your program, especially after coming back into prominence, then, something must be done about that. But that situation there pales in comparison to their opponent today, Jackson State. Jackson, as you know, they have this water crisis going on, kind of like what they had up in Flint, Michigan, but I think this one is worse. They had some storms come through, and it flooded the Pearl River, and the water system got infected. It's toxic now. First they were on a boil water alert. Now they can't even flush their toilets. So that puts everybody into a bad situation. Now, let me go back a little bit and tell you something that I may know about Jackson. Out of all the southern capitals, I've never been to Frankfort, Kentucky. I haven't been to Nashville, nor have I been to Little Rock. But I've been to all the rest of them. And I can tell you without a doubt, Jackson, Mississippi is by far the worst of all the southern capitals. First of all, you have a lot of decayed and neglected buildings. You have most of the places is over 80% black. You also have apathy from the city government. So when you mix all that together, what you get is one big ghetto. And the city and state government, I don't think they really care. So now, when you have this water crisis, you think that it's the entire city of Jackson? Well, maybe the inner city, but on the outskirts. It's my understanding that the water there is fine. So what does that tell you? It could care less about the inner city and the people who live there, which are people who look like this. So, amidst the backdrop of all this, Dion's getting a lot of credit for all the good he's doing at the program. He's recruiting. He's turning that program around. Everything is going great, but he's pointing the finger at what's going on in this situation. And I think that the people of the inner city Jackson are getting a raw deal on this situation. But among all that, this team still has to go play some football. So today they're going to show up in Miami and they're going to take on FAMU, which has been built up as a big game, which it should be. They played a tight one last year, and Jackson squeaked out and allowed them to catapult to win the conference. FAM did lose another conference game. They ended up going to the playoffs. So I think, despite the situation that's taking place, that these two teams still have to play, I think FAMU, with their crisis, is just in a little bit better shape than Jackson State. So I expect a good game, unless the talent Dion has amassed is just too superior for Florida A&M. I think that FAM is going to squeak out a close victory on this. But still, the situation that both teams are in, I think, is atrocious. One is made by the school, and the other one is a collection of things that have occurred over the years. Like Jackson, the Pearl River overflowing, it doesn't have all the black bodies in it like it used to have, but it does have a lot of other stuff. So it's toxic. It's a toxic situation, and I don't know how this is going to take place. And if I think about that, I think about my own hometown, where our pipes in our city is over 100 years old. If the St. Johns River flooded, something like that could happen here. So this is not just a situation that happened in Jackson, in Flint, Michigan. This is something that could take place anywhere. You can't assume that how you have things now is always going to be the way that they are. So anyway, glad to be back. That's my take on the Jackson State FAMU game. Should be a good one, but let's hope that both schools are able to get all this social and the internal turmoil taken care of, and let's have a great football season. Coach for real, sports for real, Coach Hall.